Good evening. This is the 837th meeting of the Historic District Commission. If you wish to be heard at this meeting, please sign the speaker list or in the chat provided by the City of Laurel website or contact staff. The qualifications of the members of the commission, the staff to the commission, and any consultants used are on file with the city and are hereby made a part of each and every application heard today. The guidelines and procedures adopted by the commission are also made a part of each and every application. Each application heard today is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application. Could you call the roll, please, Brooke?
Mr. Clacoon? Councilmember Les?
Here.
Ms. McSeany?
Here.
Ms. Lubinecki?
Here.
Ms. Frazier?
Here.
Ms. Rambo? Mr. Davis?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 2, approval of the minutes for the regular HDC meeting held on February 16th. Do we have any discussion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from February 16.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Ms. Lubinecki?
Yes.
Councilmember Les?
Yes.
Ms. McSeany?
Yes.
Ms. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 3, HDC 049-2021 for 113 St. Mary's Place, submitted by St. Vincent Pallotti High School. Would the staff like to make a report?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commission members. The applicant is seeking Historic District Commission approval to construct a 36,000 square foot multi-use athletic building addition, a 28,000 square foot outdoor turf field, remove and replace a chain link fence, and demolish 2 existing service buildings. The applicant is proposing the construction of the 36,000 square foot multi-use athletic building addition fronting on 9th Street and Montgomery sides of the property. The addition will be 2 stories and around 26 feet high to the eave. The exterior of the addition will have split face masonry to closely match the red brick on the existing building to 2 feet 8 inches above grade. The pre-finished siding above the split face masonry will be a Surrey Beige as manufactured by American Buildings Company with royal blue manufactured by American Buildings Company accent area behind the cross area. The addition will have a horizontal 5-foot band of translucent 40 millimeter arco plus 547 polycarbonate panels at 12 feet above finished floor to the bottom. The roof will have a 24 gauge, 24 foot wide Galvalume Standing Seam roof panel manufactured by American Buildings Company. That will be gray in color. The exterior doors are steel doors that will be painted to match existing exterior door color, bronze. That'll be bronze in color. The exterior lighting of the building will be bronze LED wall packs to project light no more than 50 feet from the building structure. The proposed turf athletic field will be approximately 20,000 square feet located along the 9th Street side of the property. The applicant has indicated that they will be using safe organic materials for the field. The parking lot will consist of striped asphalt with concrete curb and gutter. The landscaping and green space will consist of grass, shrubs, and trees to screen the building. Trees will be crepe myrtle, or eagle. Trees will be every 30 to 40 feet along 9th Street. Hedges will be installed along the existing alleyway to create screening. The green space around the building will be landscaped with grass shrubs. A 6-foot chain link fence will be installed around the athletic field. The applicant is requesting to demolish a shed and an outbuilding that currently serves as the high school wrestling team room. The buildings have no historical significance. The Lowell Planning Commission recommended approval at the February 9th, 2021 meeting, and the Lowell Board of Appeals approved the project at the February 25th, 2021 meeting. Staff recommends approval of HCC 049-2021. The applicant, Mr. Jeff Palumbo, is on the call to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
to have it blend in, but just by the nature of the building, it has to be a long span steel structure to be 170-foot span, and that over time there's just going to be different buildings from different eras throughout the state.
I don't think this is a historic district, Mr. Gorman, and that's really not saying I'm going to throw in a brand new structure because that's life is not really kind of what we're looking for here. We're talking about Yellow Row, which this building is going to be facing significantly, and there are some serious concerns that we're not saying it has to duplicate them, but that at least shows some sensitivity to its environment.
Well, colors and materials, and try to work with the proportions, and landscaping would help it blend in.
Karen, if I could, Smite.
Yes.
If we remember, I think we went through about 3 or 4 iterations of the Keesler building before we finally got to where it is now, what got built, as built. This, as I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but I did notice that there's a substantial span, was 100 and some feet, 100 whatever it is. It has to be clear. Yes. So there's a lot of structural steel in this building. Is that correct?
Yes, that's also
okay. So, and again, we were similarly faced with some similar constraints on the Union building on the corner of 9th Street and Montgomery Street. So let me just, this is, in looking at this building, there's a couple of things that come to mind. And I'm thinking back what we went through on the Keesler building. The architect, when he had to face the issues that it had to represent, maybe represents the right word, the feel of the historic district. They tried stone. They ended up using, I think, split concrete, if I remember correctly. Some darker colors. They added some windows on the upper at the upper floor that really don't serve any purpose other than ornamental. But the whole thing was to convey a feeling that might not have been built 100 years ago or 150 years ago, but there was a sensitivity to the historic district. The other thing that Karen hasn't mentioned, and I'll mention it, the townhomes directly across the street. Used to be a lot of those in Laurel. There are not so many left anymore. So we want to have a sensitivity to them, because they're going to walk out of their porch, walk out in their front steps and look at this. So again, I think there's a legitimate argument to be made by the applicant that they can, with landscaping and materials and perhaps some, I hate to use the term pseudo, pseudo windows convey that feeling. The color that's been selected right now is an off-white. Is that correct?
It's just a beige color.
Yeah, that might not be the right color for this building.
Honestly,
sorry.
the colors. I mean, I tried to pick very neutral colors.
Yeah.
But the colors were not, aside from the blue that is Pallotti blue.
Yeah.
The colors are very, I mean, we're open to that. That was picked. I actually wasn't ready to pick colors until I had to for this application. So the colors are not, I mean, we are limited to certain colors with the type of panels that we're picking, but that's not something that.
So let me come around full circle back to Karen, because I think Karen's got some other issues or other questions. So my concern right now is, how does this fit in with Pallotti High School? How does it fit in with the neighborhood? And can it end up with landscaping and colors and embellishments that will in fact make it feel like it's respecting the historical nature of this part of Laurel? I think that's my perspective. And now I'm going to come back and toss it back in Karen's lap. Thank you, Karen.
I think the key word that you touched on there, Mike, is the word embellishments. And the landscaping and stuff is not really the issue here. The issue is really the structure itself, which is massive, without any design elements whatsoever. So the question is, how it seems to me to be possible, without reinventing the wheel, to do some clever design work on the structure, at least I mean, you're basically building a Butler building, which is frankly of some concern, but I understand you have a budget issue. But the part particularly that's facing Yellow Row is of concern, and that whole unbroken up sides that you have. I mean, that's where columns and changes in color. I mean, perhaps Mr. Gorman could be tasked with taking a good look at the Kiesler building and see how something like that can be done. I understand you have budget, but there's got to be a way to make this structure not look like a Butler building. I looked at the company that does these, Mr. Palumbo. I went to their website, and they've clearly done a number of schools that have a significant more design elements to them, so it's possible to do that. I mean, this is a very important block. So my concerns are really quite significant here.
Yeah, I mean, again, I did not ask Paul to do that. I think that falls back on me not quite understanding the significance. So, I mean, it's something I'm sure we can look at. I'm sure Paul has a lot of ideas for it. Getting back to what Mr. Les said about, what this means to Pallotti, it's very important to us. I think I addressed that in the letter that I hope you all read. So, but again, it was based, when Paul designed it, it was based on the factors of cost and the size of what we needed to make it work. So Paul was not asked to do that. I'm sure he can do that. I'm sure he's done it on other buildings. It's just a matter of us having to sit down and figure that out.
Right, I can do that. I'd be happy to do it. I was not aware, actually.
Well, it would probably help Mr. Gorman if we end up with you being tasked to do that, to come into Laurel and really take a good look at the buildings at Yellow Row and take a look at the Kiesler building, take a look at some of the historic photos. The Harrison building, which is at the end of 9th Street, for example, was a structure that had deteriorated into other things, and the engineering company pulled it back, so it was usable as an office building, for example. I mean, it's been done in structures around that were existing. So the question that Mr. Palumbo, do I hear you saying that you're willing to have Mr. Palumbo Mr. Gorman do that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll take a look at it. I don't know what the costs are going to be for that, if we can afford to do that. But, absolutely. I guess another thing that you've all been back there and seen what it looks like now. It's not a pretty sight, and we try to keep it up, but it's just very hard since we don't have practice fields. And so that's where we end up having to have our teams work out for safety reasons. And it doesn't look good now. So I was thinking that this would be an improvement, but I certainly understand the significance of trying to make it blend in with the historical neighborhood. So yes, absolutely, we'd take a look at that.
Well, so my question, and this is merely to Ms. McSeany, I guess, is should we just table this in its entirety or work on other pieces of it with the understanding that they need to come back to us before that we would approve this?
My feeling is that I think they need to go back to the drawing board with the building, and everything flows from the building. So it seems to me we should wait to see the building, in a new outfit, or shall we say, a new facade or something.
May I bring something up?
Mm-hmm.
Please do.
We should probably look at the demolition of the two houses first, because if that doesn't get approved, it would affect the building.
And one other issue also, when you go back to the drawing, if we go back to the drawing, you mentioned this asphalt surface. Is there going to be any effort to make that a permeable surface?
I don't think that's what's in the plans for right now. No.
This is Len Davis with Steel Building. Just a couple quick things. So with the building itself, what we've done in the past is we can break it up with a different color palette so that you're not looking at like a huge 170-foot span of one color. We've done that with schools and things in the past where it kind of breaks it up and can give it some definition, which I think would help for sure. As far as asphalt, right now, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, the civil engineer has it that the turf field would kind of filter all the water. Prince George's County could come back and want like a permeable concrete or something in the parking lot, but at this time, I don't think that's kind of what they're looking for. I think it would be an asphalt paving with enough green space on site to handle the water filtration before it was discharged.
I would like to address all your other issues now so that we know what if there's anything else that we need to work on, we can do that at the same time.
Well, anybody, Marlene?
Oh, I thought you said you had several.
I do, but I thought I'd let somebody else speak.
Okay.
Excuse me. I do have an issue with the chain link fence, and I was wondering if it could possibly be screened with hedges on the outside of the fence.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the things in our guidelines is to avoid chain link fences.
Right. No, I'll be glad to look at that. The fence would only be around the field part of it to try to, have some kind of security there.
And just to, it would probably be just as well if you all hedged the 9th Street side, because the other side faces directly into the Kiesler building and the building next to it.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Especially, it would be good to screen this chain link fence on the 9th
on the 9th Street.
The other thing I did look at, I was looking at your LED lights, so that that you're using. You said there was like, I think 14 in the front that would be facing, and then there were a number that were not going to be visible. Is that correct? That was correct. That was the LED lights. And
right.
I was looking just at the design of those, could be one of the elements that could be a little more historic in its historic. And the way it says they don't go any further than 50 feet. Well, that means that it's lighting it all the ways to the street, right?
Right.
Yes.
And they do have ones that are adjustable, so they wouldn't necessarily go to the street. A lot of those LEDs are in, there's a courtyard area for egress. That's a fair amount of the lights for the school egress.
Right. But I mean, the design, I mean, there is no design. I mean, they're very standard industrial looking lights, and at least in the front part.
Yeah, we've done a few that are, I wouldn't say the lantern style, but there are some, we could dress the front up to have something a little more aesthetically pleasing.
Right. When you're doing that redesign, particularly in the front part, I mean, is the, you know, front and that big mass of white that seems to be sitting there. So anyway.
And is there a color palette that would work better in everyone's opinion? So we can kind of come back, we can come up with a few options. But
there you go.
Something to.
That's what I was talking about.
Sure. Yes.
Oh, that's the light?
That's the light.
Oh dear.
Yes. Yes, that was my question.
So this is Miss McSeany. The HDC does have a palette of colors that are pre-approved. So that might be a good starting point for you.
Okay.
And let me suggest this, Mike. Let me suggest when you look at the colors, I look at the Keesler Center and look at the on the caddy corner at the Union Building. Those colors don't exactly match the color palette, but they represent colors that are consistent with what you might call historical in nature. And again, the issue with the lights, I always say this about the lights. We put some lights on another building close by here, and they're facing across the street into people's homes. So it is. We need to be very, very careful with lighting on this kind of construction, that we're not facing into the windows of the bedrooms across the street. It's important.
We agree with you in that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And again, let me just, so I think that Ms. Lubinecki's made some valid points. I mean, I would be in favor of asking you to come back next month with a redesign of this, not the structure itself, not the bulk of the structure. That's already been passed on, approved by the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals. Our concern is, how does it appear? Is it consistent with enhancing the feeling that this is a historical neighborhood? So again, Marlene also made a point about the chain link fence down around the athletic field. And again, there's some columnar type upright arborvitae that you can put on the outside of this that would in fact lie to put the fence there, but then dress it up with the upright arborvitae. And let me come to the last thing, because I'm walking some projects that have already been done, as Robert knows. The stormwater management coming off this building and off the parking lot will be subject to approval of the plan by the erosion, by the soil, the Prince George County Soil Conservation District. That's the stormwater management plan. I mean, I'm sold on permeable surfaces, but to be honest with you, the jury's not in yet with permeable concrete and permeable blacktop. But again, it's important that the water not roll off this property down the hill, okay, into the Keesler Center and into the apartment building. So it's a substantial challenge you have in discussing the erosion and sediment control plans, which will be approved by the Prince George's County. Laurel has nothing to do with that, but we'll be charged with enforcing whatever they decide you have to do. I don't remember exactly how the water flows on the property. I don't have my old schematics from when they put the gym on, but I assume that what you said is true, that most of it is being held on the property now, on the north side of the property, where the green space is, but you're going to lose a lot of that green space. So it's important that whatever you're doing with this athletic field serve a substantial role in controlling the stormwater. Thank you, Margie. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Hang on, let me.
I mean, one option, Margie, let me come back. One option is to go ahead and table this to next month and allow Jeff and his engineers to go back and meet with Robert and the historic district coordinator and work on the design of this building as far as how to break it up so it doesn't look like it's 170 feet, but still allow them to build a building that'll serve the purpose of this indoor practice field. As I remember it, we're also going to convert the cafeteria. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first step in a four-phase plan. So yeah.
One of the difficulties that the older schools, and this is all older schools, whether they're private or public, is they don't have room for STEM type activities like robotics. So you have to try and figure out how to reconfigure your space to accommodate those needs. And so again, this is a substantial challenge. This is a bigger challenge than the gym was.
Well, but I mean, the reason, one of the reasons why we're trying to do this is to move the athletic facilities out, because we do have our new robotics and engineering programs, just 3 or 4 years old, and we need that space.
Okay, so Margie, I'll voice my opinion. I'd be in favor of tabling this till next meeting. That would allow the applicant to come back to the city, sit down and work through these issues. I'm sure there's some other issues that my colleagues will want to mention, and then I'll end up with a final one. As part of this, I want you to rebuild the gazebo, Jeff.
Rebuild the gazebo?
Yeah, because I built that thing 45 years ago.
Oh my.
It needs some help.
Okay.
Because a lot of people recognize the school because of the gazebo when they go up Montgomery Street. I'll just mention that.
Okay.
Not a requirement, but just a suggestion. Okay, Margie. Okay. So I think I've said enough. You know where I stand, and I think maybe Karen or Marlene, or if anybody else has any other concerns that they want to throw in the laps of the applicant, that would allow them to work on those before they come back to the Historic District Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Les. I do have a couple of questions that I'd like to bring up. First is, Mr. Palumbo, I'm not sure how long you've been at Pallotti, but did you realize you were in the Historic District?
I did realize I was in the Historic District. I did not realize. Well, I mean, I guess I was more, again, have restraints for what we could build. And I don't know. I guess I felt like we were improving the property. I don't like what I see when I walk out there now. And as you know, what we've done, we try to keep it up, but it's just really difficult. And I just thought we were making an improvement that would help a lot of people and would look better than it does now, but I did not realize I get it. I'm more than willing to try and work and make sure that it fits in.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then, and this is sort of in no particular order, and some people might find them nitpicky, but you know, in your plans, it describes the first 2.5 feet of the building are to match the rest of the building, but it's that stonework, not brick, you know. How come?
Paul, I will defer to you. Are you still on?
Yes. I favor brick. Len, I think it was a cost decision that the contractor used that material of a similar color.
Correct. It was to go with a color that matches the brick, but it was some cost savings for them for sure.
Okay. And I guess I would like to say that all of us who live and own property in the historic district have financial constraints of some sort or another, you know, so we all have to deal with those. You know, so we understand that. My other question is about the fence, and that is going to be 6 feet tall. And I know my father will turn in his grave when I say, I don't mind a chain link fence in certain places. My concern is when they are practicing, I don't know what they will be practicing in the fenced area. Should we be concerned about projectiles flying over the fence? Lacrosse balls, footballs, lacrosse balls more because they hurt.
Yeah, so this again, this field is not a competitive field. It is just a workout practice facility. So there won't be any games going on. You know, our coaches would be aware that they have to be working in certain areas, certain directions, and be aware of safety, especially, you know, we have the daycare center playground right down below there as well. So, I mean, we're very conscious of that in terms of language, behavior, safety, all that. And that'll just be part of what our coaches are expected to do. A lot of, I know you don't want a big net put up, but, you know, that's what a lot of places would have to do. But I know that that's not, we don't want to be putting up high nets in that neighborhood.
Okay.
There's a if you see the drawing, there's a baseball diamond on there. That facility will not be used for softball or baseball at all. I'm a baseball guy, so the guy who drew it up thought he would impress me by putting an infield there, and it's just caused a lot of confusion. So that.
Okay. Yeah. And then I guess my last thing is I am concerned about the loss of even more green space, and I'm a big tree lover. You know, a tree every 30 feet doesn't seem like quite enough trees in my mind. And there are grants from the Chesapeake Bay to help with purchasing trees. So I would love to see more trees. You know, that's not going to make or break, you know, but I think it would be very helpful in that Laurel is a tree city. You know, we really need to promote more trees.
Well, right now there are no trees out there at all because it's an athletic field, and now only a portion of it would be used for athletic field. So there's no reason not to have the trees. Yeah, but like I said, right now there's no place to put trees where the kids aren't playing ball. So
right, no, I understand that, but I think, you know, it would also help mitigate the vastness of the new building. You know, I live next door to a gentleman who thinks trees are just places for birds to sit and get his car dirty, you know. So I, you know, understand the whole tree thing. Are there any comments or questions from anyone else?
I have one question, I guess, for Mr. Palumbo. Are you thinking of doing any archaeology on this site?
Oh, geez. I had not planned on it. I saw in some old records that they did something. Apparently, there was another building on this property years ago.
That spring house.
Was the smokehouse?
No, the spring house.
Oh yeah.
No,
That was the spring house.
I think it was a duplex right on 9th Street next to the one I'm talking about was when Steve Edmonds was here. He said they came out and did some kind of a archaeological dig around the property before they took that building down.
Statue of
Was
St.
another
Mary,
reason.
St. Mary over there. Yeah, Jeff, I think they also did some work when they tore the spring house down.
Mhm.
Now that was right before Steve, I think, came on.
Yeah,
That was over next to the chapel.
yeah, that was part of the original
Right.
property. That went back to the 1800s, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Given that the site was rather significant, it was the home of the mill superintendent.
I'm
and
sorry?
This particular site that Pallotti is on was home of the mill superintendent, and it was the home of St. Mildred's Academy.
Sure.
So it has a lot of history, and an archaeological survey wouldn't be a bad idea.
And in fact, the Historical Society might be very interested to work with you. Our current executive director is a trained and certified archaeologist, and I'm not going to speak for her, but might guess that she would welcome the opportunity even to assist you with that in a site that really would be good educational for your students, you know, a real educational opportunity. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Can you get me her information?
Absolutely. I'll send, I don't have your contact information. I'll send it to Brooke and then she can forward it on.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion? I guess I agree. I'll say that I agree with Mr. Les that tabling this is a good idea.
Margie, I'll put that out as a motion and allow the applicant and his engineers and designers to work with Brooke and with Robert on the facade of the building and some of the details that have been mentioned by Ms. Lubinecki and Marlene.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Brooke, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. McFeeny,
Yes.
Ms. Lubinecki,
Yes?
Ms. Frazier.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palumbo, for being so open to making some changes.
Sure.
I'm sorry we weren't sensitive to the Historic Commission and neighborhood at the original design, and look forward to working on improvements. Actually, I've worked on a number of historic additions, even served on the Home of the Association up in Baltimore in the 1990s, Architecture Committee. And actually, I'm working on a property up in Hartford County now. There's a mill from the 1750, a home from 1850, and a home from 1950, all on the same property.
Wow.
That's why where I got my comment about buildings of different eras of showing up in the same place.
Hey, I'm sorry. Is there another? We're not done, right?
No, we're not.
Okay.
No. We will be moving on to item number 4, HDC 050-2021 for 113 St. Mary's Place, submitted by St. Vincent Pallotti School, seeking approval to demolish 2 existing houses. Would staff like to make a report?
Yes, good evening once again, Madam Chair and Commission members. The applicant is seeking Historic District Commission approval to demolish 2 existing houses, a home located at 229th Street and a duplex located at 222-224 9th Street. The homes are currently vacant. The homes will be demolished as part of the project that includes the construction of a 36,000 square foot multi-use athletic building addition and a 20,000 square foot outdoor turf field located at St. Vincent Pallotti High School. Per the engineer's report for 229th Street, the original portion of the first floor framing is bouncy. A leaking roof in the rear addition is causing interior finish damage. Potential roof framing damage can occur with continued water leakage. And the exterior wood planking is at grade, providing easy access for wood infesting insects. Per the engineer's report for 222-224 9th Street, the exterior walls show evidence of brick movement and cracking in the south and rear wall. There is a grade depression at the enclosed crawl space opening. This depression will allow water to pool in this space, allowing for foundation settlement. The rear roof addition is inadequately attached to the existing brick wall. The front brick porches are failed. There is noticeable deflection in the first floor ceiling in the areas of the roof support. There is roof beam that is grossly inadequate in the front third of the south unit. This project was also included in the Planning Commission Board of Appeals approvals mentioned before. Staff recommends approval of HDC 050-2021. Once again, Mr. Palumbo is here to answer any questions. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure there will be some discussion on this. I guess I will start off with a question. Were these properties purchased with the idea of expanding the campus?
I wasn't here for the purchase of them. They were purchased well before I came. I don't know what the intention was. I would imagine at the time it was, to be able to have the properties if the school was able to expand. I did talk to Steve Edmonds about this whole thing, and that's the question I did not ask him. I'm not even sure. I don't think he was even the principal when they were purchased. I think it was even before his time. And yeah, but one of the houses was kept as a residence and has been rented up until December. The other, when I came, had been turned into an arts area. It's no longer a home. It's been kind of gutted so that it's more open. It was not being used for anything but storage. At one point, I think the insurance company, I could not find the paperwork to verify this, but my business manager said at one point the insurance company said we should not be using it to have students any longer. It was used for storage for a long time. I think you read that my football coaches asked if they could go in and do some renovations and set it up so that they could have a place for offices and meetings and things. So we did do some work in there, but it doesn't have, heat and air conditioning. And then I asked the engineer to come out last week and take a look at it. And he made the report that you have in front of you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So it doesn't appear that the school has done anything to keep up these properties. Is that correct?
On the outside, yes. Yeah.
On the inside, you've done work?
We've done work, yes. It's been used. The one house, we've just maintained it for rental purposes. One of our custodial people was living there till December. And he did a lot of work in it while he was there to keep it up. The other one, as I said, our football program had did some work in it to fix the plumbing to be able to use the bathrooms and to a lot of electrical work to make it safe. So the insides have been kept up a little bit, enough to use them for those purposes.
Okay, it sounds like they've just been barely kept afloat, kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
So Mr. Palumbo, are you aware that these are considered contributing structures in the Laurel Historic District?
I was not aware of that. I'm sorry. No.
Well, the city of Laurel back in 2009 did a survey of all of its structures in the historic district. And it went through all the structures, buildings, and they would be designated either as contributing to the historic district or non-contributing. And these structures and the entire yellow row are considered were listed as contributing structures. Just so I don't know if you're aware.
I have learned that since I've done a lot of reading up on that in the last couple of weeks. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's some concerns about that, you know, that we don't just willy-nilly tear down contributing structures.
Understand. Yeah. Well,
Any other discussion?
Robert, this is Mike. Can you furnish the part of that report on that mentions those two structures to Mr. Palumbo?
What sections are you talking?
The report that was done, we looked at structures all over the city.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay.
I think it's actually on our website, but yeah, we can get that to him.
Yeah, just pull that part of the report, make sure he has it in his hands. I will mention that when you turn right onto 9th Street from Montgomery, the first house, our mayor who just passed away, Joe Robinson, was born in that house. It is unfortunate that for whatever reason, and I'm not blaming Pallotti, because when these were bought, I think they were bought before Steve Evans became principal. I don't remember who the principal was, who was on the board at that time, but when they purchased them, they were already in pretty decrepit condition. The one that was rented, as I understand it, has been inspected as a rental property by the city. Is that correct, Robert?
yes.
Okay, so it would have been maintained just to the minimum level required, so that the person living there, you know, had water, had sewer, etc. So again, I think that it's important that Mr. Palumbo have that report from 2009 in his hand, so that they can consider that. But irrespective if the buildings get torn down or they don't get torn down, I am sure that if they do get torn down, the Robinson family would like to have a couple of bricks out of that house.
Sure.
The
duplex?
huh?
The duplex?
The first one when you turn right, there's some bricks in that structure,
Yeah,
and that's where Joe Robinson was born, in that house. I believe a Pallotti student lived in one of those homes back there, if I remember correctly. I don't remember which one. She may be on the board at one time. I didn't live there. I'm too darn old. But again, I think that there are from my perspective, the important structures to protect are the ones that face east on 9th Street. All those narrow little row houses that, in fact, I assume they were used by mill workers. I don't know. I'd have to go look up my notes. But again, so
They were all owned by the mill company, Mike.
yeah, I think you're right, Marlene. I think you're absolutely right. So they were probably, and they probably weren't the workers that were living there. They were probably managers, I would assume, since they were up the hill from the mill. But again, Margie, is this another one that we want to table until next month so we can consider both the applications at the same time?
Well,
because the redesign may have an impact on that, right?
Well, I don't think it would. The concern that we have is that a big part of approving the plan is the traffic flow and the parking.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to do what we presented, so moving our exit, when you come off Montgomery Street onto our property, it's only about 200 feet before you have to turn left to come out the alley behind Mr. Sly's building.
Right.
And it causes a backup there because our parents come in to drop off and they can't get in and out of the parking lot. And then so it causes a backup onto Montgomery Street. And then when our people come out of what we call the alley, they can't turn left on to 9th Street because Montgomery's right there.
Yeah.
And that Montgomery does not have a stop sign, so it's hard to get through or off 9th Street. So a big part of this project was moving our exit down across from Park Hill so that people can get it. There's more room in our lot for drop off, which allows us to, relieve some of the traffic from St. Mary's Place, Montgomery Avenue, and 9th Street. So that was an important part of it. And unfortunately, with the houses there, we don't have that access way.
Okay, so let me understand, Margie, if I could. Let me understand this. I looked at the plan. You show that you're moving your entrance onto that back space to where these houses are. As I remember it, and I didn't watch the whole meeting for Planning Commission and Board of Appeals. I didn't have a chance to watch the whole meeting. You've agreed, Mr. Sly raised the issue about where the entrance is right now. Is that correct? And
Well, he was he was concerned about the traffic back there.
Right. Existing traffic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as I understand it, the way I look at this, you apparently have agreed with him, even though that's one of those undedicated alleys back there, that you're not going to use that once you take these houses down and you're able to move the entrance. Is that correct, Mr. Palumbo?
Yes, it is.
All right.
And we presented a landscaping design that would kind of give them some privacy and not be part of our campus. Because right now, I mean, it's almost like they're on our, we're kind of sharing that alley.
Okay. So Margie, given that, I'm willing to make a motion to approve the demolition permit. And again, I think that it was brought up that there may be some significance. They need to talk to Ms. Bennett at the museum about if she wants to do some work up there before they tear those down. This would allow a safer entrance and egress from the property. And I know Mr. Sly has been raising this issue for many a year about that alleyway behind his house. And I will point out that I believe it's what's called an undedicated alley. So it's for use for both sides, both property owners. And under this plan, by taking the homes down, they could change that entrance, whether the addition gets built or not, and improve the safety of traffic in and out of the property. So that's my motion.
Well,
Ms. Lubinecki, would you like to say something?
well, I'm concerned about if they tear it down and then the change is not, and then the new structure isn't even built. That's the worst possible solution.
Ms. Levin, I will promise, I mean, that will not happen. We're not going to tear those houses down unless we're able to, to move forward. And, there's no intention of that at all. The only reason that we need those gone would be if this project is built and we need to have that access. So that
and to address Mr. Sly's concerns.
Yeah, we're not anxious to tear those down. It would not happen unless we need it. If we need that access was the problem.
Ms. Lubinecki, if you'd like, you can tie a condition to this that says that those houses, can't come down, unless, we'll approve it now, but say, has to be included within HDC 049 or something to that effect.
What's the 049? What's the 049?
That's the last one we just heard. That's the last one we just heard.
Oh,
That's the last application we just heard. If you want to tie that to that.
No, I just have some concerns just overall. So Robert, thank you for the option. But
just a question, would it be possible just to remove 220?
That's the 222, 224 is actually the bigger issue. It goes deeper into the into where the parking is.
Well, Are we talking about the duplex or are we talking about the single family?
So the 220 is the single family, 222, 224 is the duplex.
Right.
And the parking exists back there now.
I'm sorry?
Parking exists behind the building now.
Yeah, so right now,
Yeah.
a big part of our parking lot is where the building's going to go. And that's why we needed the we needed the variance for green space, because we're going to have to build parking spaces farther away from the building.
Because it's the Italianate part of the one structure particularly, which is there aren't that many left in Laurel, frankly. I mean, there's the one on the corner and there's a couple on Main Street, but this house could be easily put back into being a pristine, wonderful structure in the right hands of somebody who would love it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ms. Lubinecki that the duplex is more significant in that there are fewer examples of that within the city. I would love to see if there was a way to keep that building.
I will, if I don't mind, I will point out just so it's known that any changes to the parking, the landscape, everything will require the application to have to go completely through all processes once again. That includes the planning commission, the board of appeals, just because there was a certain variance that was granted. So just to point that out.
Well,
I appreciate that. However, you know, this is the historic district, and I feel like if they wanted to take those buildings down, they knew that before they even put pen to paper to start drawing anything, and that could have been addressed quite some time ago. Do we have any more discussion? A motion?
One thing I considered was the White House 220 could probably without too much difficulty be moved over a few lots if that helped at all to the corner. May not gain anything that way, but it's one option there.
and then keep the other building?
Yes, just
Keep the duplex.
it'd be too difficult to move that one, I would think. Yes, but leave that and move the White House if that helped, but I'm not sure if that would gain anything.
It doesn't, the duplex, if that's there, then the access to get through there to the back exit is not possible.
Well, that's why you have an architect. Okay. Maybe Mr. Gorman can come up with a solution to that.
I was working on that, working around them.
So perhaps we should table this one as well.
Is that a motion I hear, Ms. Frazier?
I move that we table HDC 050-2021.
I have
I need to withdraw my proposal first.
yeah, I thought I think Mr. Les had a motion on the table. Yeah.
I'll withdraw that, Karen.
Okay.
I apologize.
I second Ms. Frazier's motion.
Brooke, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Frazier,
Yes,
Ms. Lubinecki,
Yes.
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Ms. Maxini,
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will look forward to having you come before us again with some changes. We really appreciate your coming, all of you coming to this
All of
meeting.
you. Thank you very much. This is a tough one for all of us. So
yeah.
Madam Chair, if I could just mention one thing.
Yes.
Are we done with these two items?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
For today.
As you may remember, President Biden and Senator Cardin stood on the platform at the Laurel train station some 16 years ago. So the security was pretty tough that day. You couldn't get off of Route 1 to get near the station with at that time vice presidential nominee Biden. I mean, the Secret Service was all over the place. One of the things that happened, and I'll mention this because it would do us well to send some letters, not just from the city, but from citizens. One of the things, I was in Washington at Zoom meetings all last week, and actually on Wednesday I met with had a Zoom meeting with Senator Cardin. He was actually on the floor when the second stimulus package was approved, and he thought it important enough that he had about 15 of the elected officials from Prince George's County on the phone with him. But one of the things that I was reminded, President Biden is an advocate of passenger traffic, which includes Laurel train station. And Ben Cardin, Senator Cardin, is also an advocate because I've met with him previously on this other issue. If we're not careful, we held up signs a couple years ago, save our station. They will take the station away from Laurel.
I believe that. They're working very hard over that new development. There's no question.
Yeah. What's happened over there is, and I've been over there with, actually I went on a tour over there talking about stormwater management, and they've put in an application to change their flag stop to a regular train station. And what's holding them up is they were told it'll cost them $19 million by CSX because they got to straighten the tracks out or something.
Wonderful.
Okay. Well, nothing's done till it's done. So I would suggest that if any of my colleagues on the HDC are interested enough to send letters to the president and to Senator Cardin advocating that they finish the development of the transit-oriented development at Laurel train station. That will secure our place as a passenger train stop. And I did mention it to Senator Cardin when we had the conversation with him because Emmett from Greenbelt and I were on the bandwagon about don't approve the maglev because maglev is going to cost $14 billion, and it doesn't do any good for the city of Laurel. It's going to zip right by at 250 miles an hour. So again, I encourage you, if you have the wherewithal, President Biden, remind him when he was here, and Senator Cardin, because they have sway over transit dollars that are going to come up in the highway bill that's pending right now in the Senate. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Margie.
You're welcome.
Madam Chairman, Patrick Davis, may I make a brief comment as well?
Yes, please.
First of all, Councilmember Les, thank you for that, and I will piggyback on your comments, my personal experience. I think we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful that we're balancing preserving or keeping the historic nature of the city of Laurel, but yet let's not let us hold Laurel back 50, 60 years. You know, Laurel is a completely different Laurel now than it was 60 years ago. You know, we have to focus on that. And I say that about the fact that I personally am working on a multi-million-dollar project on Main Street just to try to drive some sort of change and bring some sort of interest to our Main Street. So we just have to be mindful that we're balancing our efforts in terms of focusing on preserving the historic nature of Laurel, but at the same time, let's not continue to hold our Main Street back. Everyone else's Main Street is moving forward. We have a lovely Patuxent River that runs adjacent to Main Street that, you know, with the correct effort, with the amount of contribution we're taking the risk that's associated that can really enhance our historic Main Street. So I think that from a personal perspective, because who feels it knows it. I put my time and my heart and my soul in this lovely city, in our lovely Main Street. But again, let's just make sure we balance the historic nature as well as not continue to hold us from moving forward. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Moving on to staff approvals. We only have one, HDC 048-2021 for 333 Montgomery Street to replace a sidewalk. Is there anything else anyone would like to address?
I would. I know we've talked in the past about the issue of flippers coming in and doing things and pretending they didn't know they had to get permission.
Excuse me.
Yes?
I would just like to say to the gentleman representing Pallotti High School that they are free to go if they do not want to stay for all of this.
Right,
We
thank
really
you very
appreciate
much.
your attendance.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
And just, a few days ago, there's a property at 330 Prince George Street that was on the market, dreadful condition, but it was, like bargain price, $212. The flipper bought it like in a day or two. If we could have a way to communicate that, okay, we know you're going to work on this property. He's going to have to do a lot of work on that property. Please come to the Historic District Commission if you're going to make any external changes. And he would have to make a lot of that.
Jesus Christ, Paul.
Which house is this?
330 Prince George Street.
Mr. Palumbo, you're still visible
And audible.
and audible.
Margie, 330 Prince George Street.
Thank you.
I got it. Thank you.
Mr. Palumbo, you might want to turn off your audio.
Margie, if I could just comment about Marlene's suggestion. Robert, I don't remember whether it was Robert or Bill contacted the Real Estate Commission about sales forms where there's a box you check if it's in a historic district. Is that correct,
Yes,
Robert?
I did contact them. Yes, sir.
And they essentially blew us off. Okay. So, and the history of 330 Prince George Street is extensive. It goes back years. And it's sort of been done a disservice, the city, because the city has been working on that project, on that property for the last several years. And people have made comments, they're not doing anything. Because the other part of this is you have to respect the property rights of the individual that owns the property. And whereas one property owner might be upset that, geez, there's a mess over there, then an adjoining property owner, if you remember, came in and gave testimony at the Historic District Commission that this person needed to rebuild that shed so that they could clean the property up.
It didn't work.
Well, yeah, you're right, Marlene, and we approved it with extensive discussion.
Right.
Okay, so the city's been doing their effort. Now, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to buy the property if I saw the Facebook dialogue that's been going on, because I would say, hold on a minute, I'm not going to fight City Hall and the community. I'm not going to buy that property. The best thing that can happen to the property is not to tear it down, because I think as a stick-built property, it's probably okay, the bones, but it's got to be gutted. It's got to be flipped. It's got to be somebody that buys the property that at least wants to start on its road back to where it's an acceptable property in the historic district.
I completely
area.
agree. Completely.
Okay, so we need to be careful what we say about property owners, because that Facebook the dialogue, they criticized the property owner. She actually lives on Montgomery Street. Okay,
I don't do Facebook.
well, yeah, but the problem is, Marlene, too many people do.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, I'm not a real good fan of Facebook because it's like email. People say things they probably didn't want to say later on. Okay.
My point is, I wish we had some sort of document that we could provide to the new owner.
Yes, I agree.
Make them aware of what is required.
Well, since I live across the street, as soon as it says that it's sold, I'm going to make sure
It's
that
sold.
real estate agent gets a letter from me
It's
so they
sold.
can tell the purchasers. Well, it's my understanding it got sold and then they backed out of the contract.
Oh, yeah?
But again, I don't know. You know, it's hearsay. That's all it is. But we will, in fact, I will from the council office send a letter to the real estate agent.
Right. Also, I have talked to Brooke when there's properties that I know have just been sold, and she said she has dropped a packet off at that house.
Right.
Oh, good. Good.
Not that particular house, but at other houses.
They don't want to read it. They don't want to read it, Karen.
I know.
And the interesting thing about renovating these distressed properties is there's certain requirements, but the big requirement is you must get an electrical inspection. Is that correct, Robert? Robert?
Hello? Anybody help?
Yeah, sorry.
They have to get an electrical inspection if they're doing electrical in the house, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I mean, the other requirements are not onerous because we're concerned about what's going on outside the house. Mm-hmm. But again, I mean, right now we've got a property on 4th Street where they had environmental services finally came out and took the tank away. And that Redfin's got that one for sale. And the interesting thing is, looks good inside, but it still doesn't look well outside. Looks like it's sick. So again, whatever we can do to encourage new property owners, that even if they're just flipping the house, be considerate of the Historic District Commission and their requirements and the needs of the community. Thanks, Margie.
You're welcome. So I'd like to say that, yes, Brooke, you have been extremely helpful. You know, whenever I see, what was the last one? There's a dumpster on Marlene's block of Montgomery Street.
Yeah.
Across the street. So I don't know what they're doing on the inside, but the window frames I know are peeling like crazy. So I assume that they will eventually do some outside work. You know, so Brooke said she would send them a letter. But I would throw out that even if you get a letter to the new owner, the people that they hire to do the work, in my experience, when I have spoken to a couple of them, oh, you know, we're doing what the owner said to do. I don't know anything about that. You know, this is what he told us to do. So, like, I live, you know, in a townhouse and they're staggered. So the one in the middle got painted quite a few years ago. They didn't paint the side of the house that faces me, you know, because the owner told them he didn't have to. And I had no way to get in touch with the owner. You know, he wasn't living there. He was a little slumlord. But, you know, so it's a multi-tiered problem, I guess is what I want to say. Anything else?
Good meeting, Margie.
Yeah, good meeting, Margie.
Great.
Oh, and everybody knows that Mr. Cocoon's on the mend. He's actually been down at work, so I assume we'll see him next month.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
Glad to hear that.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Okay. We are